as it slowly dies away in the background. So I am in the studio. It is evening. It's a Sunday morning rant in the evening, and I make no apologies for that. So welcome back to Studio One. And I'm sitting looking over there, and there's some people over there. They're just sort of smiling at me, but they're keeping very quiet for me because I've been playing and they've been listening. Anyway, so here we are back in Studio One, and I'm going to start off this week with where I ended off last week, which was me going, I'm off to see the Quo, and I went and saw the Quo. And there is a saying that you haven't been to a concert until you've been to a Quo concert. Yeah, I would go along with that pretty much. Although they're not really what I would call a keyboard band, and obviously I'm a keyboard player and I do enjoy keyboard bands. The Quo are not really a keyboard band, although they do have a keyboard set on stage with them. One of their guys plays the keyboards during the sets. It's all about the guitars. It's all about that sort of interaction of Francis and Rick, really, is what the Quo's have always been about. Unfortunately, Rick is still too ill to tour following his heart attack in the summer, so they've got a stand-in guy who's doing the Rick's parts, if you like, at the moment, making a bloody good job of it as well. So that's the Quo. Now they were supported by two other bands on the night. One was called the Lounge Kittens, and I have to be brutally honest and say that the people I went with didn't really want to see the Lounge Kittens, and I wasn't prepared to go walking across the floor while they were on stage, so we actually were in one of the bars. We could hear them, but we didn't really see them. So I'm not going to pass any comment on them. The second support artist of the night was REO Speedwagon. So I think you have to be of a certain age to remember REO Speedwagon. I'm of that certain age. I can remember their two big hits from the 80s, which was I Keep On Loving You and I Can't Find This Feeling Anymore. Both of which they did pay. They paid a Boogie Woogie set, which sort of complements the Quo quite nicely, really. A lot of people in the audience though didn't know REO Speedwagon. You could see that from the reaction, but well, they were pretty damn good and loud. And then the White Marshall amps appear. On come the Quo, quick instrumental of Pictures of Matchstick Men, and then you know, you can see it. And you watch the funniest thing is that when you watch the drummer on stage. On a lot of gigs, you know, you watch the drummer and you can see him moving around, but you don't actually see the bass drum moving. When the Quo were on stage, that guy was hitting that bass drum so damn hard that you could see the skin on the outside of the drum vibrating. Every time he hit it, you know, he was hitting that thing hard. But that's how the Quo go. Very good concert. Highly recommend the Quo. Unfortunately, you probably won't see them now because this is the last of the electrics. So when they go out and tour, next time they go out and tour, it's highly likely they're going to go out and tour with their acoustic guitars and do the acoustic set that they sort of started a couple of years back, rather than the electrics. It's a bit of a shame, but as they said, you know, they're getting on a bit now. I mean, Francis Rossi, what is 67? Rick Parfitt's nearly 70, if he isn't 70. You know, you don't realise that these guys are still are getting on. I mean, I'm getting on. Good God. Anyway, we are just a week before Christmas now, and it does feel like Christmas has come early because a whole load of parcels arrived this week, which is really good. So stuff I'd sort of been waiting for arrived this week. So I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago actually on the video, that I put a couple of cheeky bids in, and I'd already got this one, which is the sustain group for the DX7. Anyway, I put a couple of cheeky bids in, and along comes the decay group, there you go, along with the percussion group. Now these haven't actually been out, this is literally the first time they've been in the studio. This morning I unpacked them from the box has been sitting here all bloody week because I just haven't had time to do it, so they will be coming out, and I'll be delving through the sounds this week and seeing what happens before Christmas finally hits, and I have to go and do family things and Christmassy things. So those arrived, and then the other thing that arrived this week is actually the card that's sitting in my synthesizer at the moment. So let me just go internal sounds and take it out. There you go. So I got this D50 sound card this week, which is the Artist series. So those, obviously, you know that I sort of collect the sound cards themselves rather than sort of collecting the SysX files. Sound Source Unlimited does some really good D50 sounds, or D50 sound cards, and I've slowly been getting most of their cards, and this is the latest acquisition. So I'm just going to pop that back in the synthesizer over here, like so. And that was what you heard playing a minute ago. So if I go up there, very Princey that sound, isn't it? Anyway, so that was that's the new card which I shall be playing with in a bit. Well, I have been playing. I've been playing for the last hour actually, if I'm brutally honest. Yes, all right. So yeah, it's playing a bit more and finding out what that can give me. I've also been playing with the System-8 because you heard that a minute ago. That was what that was. Slowly starting to get into that really powerful piece of equipment, and I will be doing some pointers on video shortly, probably between Christmas and New Year. I'll sit down and I'll actually sort of put my thoughts on paper about things System-80 wides, and get on with that. Which actually moves me on to, so Quo System-8. So one of the things I have decided to do now, if I stand up, and then you can see that my Kronos here has nice wood cheeks on it, and my Jupiter here has aluminium cheeks on it. Now, what Roland have done is they've issued 2 upgrade packs. Very cheeky, I've got to be honest, this is really cheeky. But they've issued 2 upgrade packs for the System-8. So, you can either have the end cheek, which is this thing here, in brushed wood or brushed aluminium. And I've been sitting there thinking, shall I do it or shall I not do it? It's not cheap, it's 50 quid. Whatever that is in dollars, what's that, 65 US, 65 euros or something like that. So it's not a cheap thing to do. And it really is personal preference. You don't need to do it. There's absolutely no technical reason why you need to do it, apart from to make them look a bit sort of different. Now, one of the things that I did think about on this is that if you're taking this on the road, then from a flashiness point of view, the aluminium, brushed aluminium like on the Jupiter, is a much better look for the keyboard. From a practical point of view, having the wooden ends on the keyboard, I suspect will stop it getting bished and bashed about. So, if you are gigging with it, I suggest you do replace the end panels from plastic, because this plastic is, to be honest, you know, bulk standard plastic. Give it a good enough tap and you'll crack it. Whereas if you put the wood ends on or you put the aluminium ends on, you're not liable to crack it. I'm going for the wood. Alright, I've made the decision. I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and I'm going for the wood. And the reason I'm going for the wood is because it's in my studio, and I think the wood looks better in the studio than the aluminium. Personal preference. Anyway, so I've ordered those because, of course, the aluminium's out now. The wood doesn't turn up to 2017, but I've put an order in, so it'll arrive when it arrives, like the System-8 arrived when it arrived. And I'm not going to be too fussed about it. So that's that end cheeks, done that bit, bump, move on. The other thing that came up this week was somebody put a comment on the channel, and I'm sure I have talked about this. although for the life of me I can't find the video where I did it. So I'm not sure whether it was a video I recorded and have never posted, or whether I did record it and I have posted it and it's just me, I can't find it. But the comment was very, very simple. So if I turn round, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually turn my TR8 off. I'm going to pick it up like so. Okay. And the reason I've taken my TR8 down is to look at the back of it. So if I put the back of the TR8 up there, what you can see, and I'll read it from right to left, is the locking component, which I think is a brilliant idea. Headphones, which I never use, mix out, alternative out, or assignable out as they call it, and external ins. Okay, so these are all mono 1/4 inch jacks. Boom, 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 6 off, 6 there off. Okay. And the question was, can I run a System 1 and a TB3 with my TR8? And the answer is yes, but with a caveat. And the caveat is such that in the early days, when the Aira stuff first hit the shelves, there was 2 pieces of equipment in the Aira range. There was this, and there was the baseline unit, that. And what they did was they showed a whole host of people using this and that unit together. So what they effectively did was they took the stereo out from that unit and they put it into the assignable external ins on here, and then they took it out through the mono mix. Right? All well and good, means you only have 2 connections onto the mixing desk, a left and a right, and the bassline and the drum machine were going to come out of that same channel settings. And then along came the System-8. Sorry, not the System-8, the System 1. I get it right. Or the System-8, you could use either of these. The sort of comments will probably work the same, but somebody was saying about the System 1. But the comments are the same. Okay, and the answer is that there are no more external ins on this. So you would either need to have your System 1 or System 8 going through another pair of channels on your mixing desk, or alternatively you could have the bassline unit, so take a mono feed out of the bass unit, the TB3, and stick it into one of the sockets, the left or the right on here, and take a mono feed out of the System 8 or the System 1 and have that feed into the other external in on here. And therefore what you would get is you would get the drums, which you could assign to the assignable outs, and these 2 coming out. So if you were to do it, so you just had the mix out, you would have 2 channels going into your mixing desk. On both channels you might have your drums, on one of those channels you would have your bass line, and on the other channel you would have System 1 or System 8. Okay, that's the only way you can do it. Other than that, you will then have to have each one of these pieces of equipment its own pair of stereo channels into your mixing desk. Okay, I hope that answers the question. But I am going to go slightly further, because the other thing you need to do with all this kit is you need to make sure that you have a common time source. Otherwise they all go out of sync, and they go out of sync quite quickly actually. It's quite surprisingly that the clock chips on each one of these units, even though it says it's running at, say for argument's sake, 120 beats per minute, the clock chips will overclock themselves, so one will run faster, one will run slower, etc. So you really do need to make sure you sync them up. So if you're just using this, a TB3 and a System 1 or a System 8, then your TR8 should be your master clock source, and you should have a Midi cable coming out of the out here and into the in, and then into the out of the out and into the in on here. So you need to make that a pass through. Okay, and there is a video that tells you how to make that thing a pass through. Okay, or you could do it that way, make that pass through. You know, there's either way of doing it. Alternatively, you need to make sure that if you're running your computer in your stack, your computer is the master time source, and these are all slaving off it. Okay, so that's how you would set that up in that scenario. Now, the other thing about this is if you want to use the USB for audio, you either need a computer in the mix or you need the MX1. You cannot use the USB with an audio source on anything other than those two platforms at the moment. That's not saying it's not going to change in the future. And one of the things that I've said on the channel on numerous occasions is the MX1 needs to be expanded. There needs to be an MX2, or there needs to be something, because Roland are introducing all this equipment that has USB outputs on it, and the MX1 can't cope with it. So where are all these USB outputs going to go? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that, and I've said it many times on the channel. Maybe Roland might start listening at one point and come up with a solution for us musicians. You never know. Piggies might fly, of course. Yeah. Anyway, so hopefully that answers your question, and if you've got any further questions, just PM me back on the channel and I'll try and answer them again. So that's that. Now the other thing that has arrived this week is I bought a job lot of books. And they were sort of vintage books for various stuff that I own in the either studio or it's down the lockup in storage. So this one I thought was quite interesting, and I have flicked through it. I haven't read it in detail yet, but I have flicked through it, and it's really sort of an ape memoir, if you like, about the DX synthesizers, so all the sort of common functionality in there, which is quite an interesting little read. As you can see, it's fairly well worn. It's been fairly well used over the years, but you know, for what this cost me, that was quite an interesting buy. The second thing that came this week was, and I do need this because I need to do something on my D50, is, and this hasn't actually managed to make it out of its polythene cellophane cover yet, but that is the actual D50 service notes from Roland as original. Okay, so designed to go into a folder, and I will be taking the D50 to pieces to do some stuff on it shortly, so that's the reason why I bought those. And then there was another book that came out which I thought was quite interesting, so I did buy this, which was a quick book on synthesis, most of which I have to be honest, having flipped through, I know, but it was something I will go through in detail, and there you go, and it's all about the M1. So there's a nice picture of the M1 on the front of it. Actually, that's the sort of stock, you know, photograph of the M1. But what's also very interesting is they also give you, which you don't tend to get, I didn't get with my M1, which is the reference card for the M1 itself. There's one attached to the M1R, which is down the bottom there, but there's not one that's free floating, so that was welcome with that. And then there's some more stuff here, so again, I came with that. There's the M1 drum pattern handbag, and now I bought that predominantly for just reminding me of drum patterns rather than just programming by ear. This was more to do with actually thinking about the drum patterns themselves and programming that way, which of course means they're all going to be quantized and perfect. That was one, and then the other one is all to do with sequencing and recording on the M1. Now I haven't done that for years, and the reason I got the book, apart from the fact it was part of the job lot, was it's always very interesting when you go back and look at the sequencers on these older pieces of equipment. They are incredibly functional actually, the sequencers. The sequencer on this is really functional. It's just an utter pain in the arse to use. But you can do a hell of a lot with it, and you can move notes around, and you can quantize notes, and you can, you know, there's lots you can do with it if you know how to use the sequencer and you know how to read the screen for what the machine is actually telling you. So again, not that I probably would ever use the sequencer again on my M1. Not that, as I say, not that it's not a very functional sequencer, because it is an incredibly functional sequencer. It's just far easier to use Ableton. So another interesting book for the library, for the reference library. My reference library is really has really grown this year, actually, in terms of equipment. So, you know, as I say, if you have a problem, then shoot me something on the channel. I'll see what I can do, because a lot of it is contained within these books. A lot of it's not, of course. A lot of it is trial and error, or why doesn't the damn thing work? So that's that. Just thinking about now, I did report, and you probably heard right at the beginning of this when I was playing, my drum machine was working again. I did report when I put this thing in that the drum machine wasn't working. I had no idea what I did. Well, folks, I can honestly say I have no idea how I fixed it either, because it wasn't working when I put the System-8 in. When I came back to it about a week later, it was working. When I actually sort of had the time to sit down and try and diagnose what was wrong with it. So, there you have it. Another one of those quirks of the studio. I have no idea what I did, but it now works. I'm not going to fiddle around with it again, although I've just unplugged the damn thing, of course, to show you the back of it, but I'm not going to fiddle around with it again for a while, so hopefully that means it's going to work for a while to come, which is good, because I've got quite a few plans of things I want to do with it at the moment. I think that really about wraps it up for this week. Yeah, I think it does really wrap it up this week. I suspect there's not going to be a blog next week. It is Christmas Day and I shall be eating turkey. Not that I haven't had turkey now, so this will be the 5th turkey dinner for this December, for various Christmas do's that I've been out with work and with friends and various things. So yeah, that's turkey dinner number 5 coming up. But having said that, on the flip side, yes, I know. I'm just being pointed. My tummy's being pointed at. Yes, I'm on a diet. You know, my New Year's resolution. It's not really a New Year's resolution. I really do need to lose some weight. So, from the 1st of January, it looks like we are on a diet. So, hopefully, you'll see a slimmer me in the new year. The other thing that is starting to arrive is the new Midi setup for the studio. So maybe I'll take you through that in about a week or so's time when I start setting it up. So as you know, in my Midi setup as it currently stands, I have a Mark of the Unicorn XT unit. I have 2 A80s. I found some patch panels on the internet a few weeks back, so I've ordered those in a brand new case to house the whole lot. I've also gone the whole hog, and I've also ordered the iConnect Mio unit, which I understand is actually in the country, so I'm expecting that to turn up some point next week. And then I'll put the whole thing together into a purpose-built MIDI rack and use that for MIDI going forward. One of the biggest things I've always found with MIDI is having to unplug and repatch things is painful with the whole MIDI sort of setup. You know, audio, we've had that for years. I've got that sorted in the studio, but MIDI is still a bit painful. So hopefully this new setup is going to solve all that for me and give me a setup that will be completely functional from a MIDI perspective going forward, which will be good, because it's I've got to the point now with the studio where I've got so much equipment around me that I use that, you know, trying to get the MIDI signal to the right piece of equipment sometimes involves a little bit of brain work, and I really don't want brain work involved in it. I just want to sit down, I want to play and just route it from A to B as appropriately. So maybe that's another one for the video list over the next coming weeks. Other than that, I've rambled on for quite long enough now, and as you can see, my voice is going because I've been singing far too much this week. So if I don't make the video before Christmas, I wish anybody who's watching this a very, very Merry Christmas. Any other faiths and denominations, I'm Christian, so very happy Christmas to you as well. And I will see you on the flip side of Christmas. Possibly between Christmas and New Year I might do something. If I don't, then I wish you a Happy New Year as well. Sayonara. Bye bye.